Hello, welcome to month 20 of my TBR Zero project. If you are new here, you might want to check out some of my earlier videos, at least the ones which explain the rules of the project and my 1 year in rule change and why I'm doing it and all of that fun stuff. You will find them over on my channel. So yeah, hop over there and come back when you're done. Welcome back, or welcome to the 20th month of my TBR Zero project. It is February 2025 and it is the gloomiest day of the year so far. It's so gloomy I've put on my gothiest lipstick to match. I didn't actually intend to come out this gothy. I was going for like berry, and the lip stain I had not used in a while, and yeah. It just came out really dark and blotchy. So then I had to put lipstick on top of it, which of course made the darkness more intense. So yeah, here we are. I'm goth today. So yeah, goth in the brightest purple imaginable. It is so dark, so cold, so grey, like misty and wet. I went out a few minutes ago to walk with my partner up the road to the bus stop. So I would get some fresh air, see the outside world, and it was horrible. I'm back. I'm not doing it again today. It is grim, but it's a perfect day to get some chores done and do some reading and to start a vlog. So it's actually the 8th of February today. And I have yet to finish a single book this month, but I have made headway in a few. A few episodes ago on the Books Unbound podcast, Ariel made reference to the fact that she is trying to approach reading being very relaxed about how many books she has on the go at any one time. I can't remember whether she described it as having a smorgasbord of books or a charcuterie board of books, but it amounts to the same thing. And I have been really leaning into this, and I have several books on the go now. And you know what? I have found over recent months, recent different approaches to reading that actually it works really well for me. I think I assumed previously, before leaning into this tendency of mine, that I would read books slower if I had fewer of them on the go, when actually I think I read them faster because I'm always reading what I'm actually interested in at the time, and sometimes I finish books without even anticipating that I'll finish them. I'm just kind of going along and not really paying much attention to how far along I am in them and all of that fun stuff. So what have I got on the go at the moment? I'm going to start with the physical books. So the first book that I kind of deliberately put on my smorgasbord is Happy City by Charles Montgomery. This is subtitled Transforming Our Lives Through Urban Design. So this is basically a book about design of cities, kind of how to plan environments in densely populated areas in ways to actually make people happy. And this is something I'm really interested in. I'm really interested in communities and how people can be happier in general. How can we make life more worth living for everybody? You know, like how can we make life a pleasant experience for as many people as possible? And I love cities, so yeah, I really wanted to read this for a while. I think I got it last Christmas, not 2024 Christmas, but 2023 Christmas, and it had sat on my shelf languishing since then, but I decided to pick it up and put it on my book smorgasbord. So I am only 20 pages in to be honest, because I just finished like a section, but I am enjoying it so far. I got a little bit distracted after I started this because I suddenly got the urge to read some more of this. Now, this had technically been on my currently reading pile for years. I bought it in a charity shop. It's a memoir about clothes, and I love memoirs about clothes that are from the perspective of ordinary people, or more or less ordinary people. This author's actually a fashion journalist, but I mean like not fashion designers, like the people who wear the clothes primarily rather than design them, you know, because I feel like although books about fashion designers can be interesting, they're coming from sort of like an art and creativity, like top-down perspective. And what I'm really interested in with clothes is how ordinary people wear them in their everyday lives, not kind of the initial design process, but the craft of use, which is a term I learned from another book. You know, what decisions are people making when they are buying clothes, wearing clothes, all of that stuff. So yeah, I had read a few chapters of this before, but I'd never finished it. It just sort of languished on my pile. And then I spotted it and I thought, I'm going to add that to the smorgasbord. And I decided to start over because I was only, as I say, I was only a couple of chapters in, they're not very long. And now I am a lot further in. I am on page 261. And there are only 334 like real pages in the book. I've ignored the permissions section where there's a whole bit about copyright material that's been reprinted in this book. But yeah, I'm really, really enjoying it so far. It is surprisingly quite a lot about grief, both the author's own grief because her sister passed away, and the grief of various other people that she knows and meets working as a fashion journalist. So it can be quite a tough one in places, but I am enjoying it overall. And I think I will probably finish that quite soon. I would be surprised if it makes it very far into this week. I may even finish it this weekend. Just depends on my mood and whether I pick it up. And then the third print book that I have on the go is City of Stories, which was published by the writer development agency Spread the Word. So this was basically a competition anthology. So they had a competition, people submitted short stories, and then the winning and like runners-up and highly commended stories from the competition were published in this book. And it features people from all over London. There's 60 writers in it, yeah. And all the stories are quite short. So what I did was I took this to work because I thought it would be a good one to read like during my lunch breaks. But the last couple of weeks I haven't actually spent my lunch breaks in the office because I work in central London, so sometimes in my lunch breaks I go out and run errands basically. I go to shops and pick up bits that I can't get easily at home or without like going out of my way. So yeah, I hadn't been reading this, so I thought I would pop it in my bag, bring it back, carry it around for a bit, see if I read any more. I did read a couple more, I think, while I was waiting for my book club to start last week, but yeah, I haven't made that much progress. I'm on page 31 out of, it's not very long, anthology, 188, which includes like acknowledgements and author bios and things like that. So I will probably take that one back to work because I don't think I have that many like errands to run this week, but we'll see how it goes. I also have The Magic of Christmas by Trisha Ashley on the go. I've been reading this on and off over the last month. I think I started it in early January. We've been going for a little while, this one and me. But I am really enjoying it. It is February and I'm still reading Christmas books, but I do write Christmas books, so I just consider it research for writing projects, to read kind of what's already out there so that I can do something different. It's basically a book about a load of posh people who have like rural lives that are filled with a surprising amount of drama. So the main character, like, she was planning on leaving her awful husband who'd been cheating on her for years. As soon as her son went off to university, but then he like died in a car crash and like none of his family are sad, like literally nobody. They're all like, well, we have become all badden in the last couple of years. And she's like a writer who writes like these kind of like cozy cooking memoir books about her life in this cottage, and she's like tried to be like self-sufficient for a while, but now, you know, she's only kind of semi doing that. And yeah, like the funeral scene was absolutely incredible. It's one of my favourite things that I've read in ages. No less than 3 women who husband had been cheating with showed up at this funeral, and it was incredible. Absolutely hilarious. So yeah, if you want a kind of like cozy but quite gossipy read, I would really recommend this. I'm having so much fun with it so far. So on top of all of those, I'm also working my way through a couple of books which I think in the long run will be like reference books, but for now I am kind of reading through them as they go. It will make sense in a minute. So the first one is The 5-Minute Garden by Laetitia Maklouf. So this is basically a guide to small tasks that you can do in your garden over the course of a year. So there's like a section for January, a section for February, and so on. And I am basically working through this year. So trying to kind of like do what tasks I can for each month. Honestly, my garden doesn't have a lot of stuff in it. So mainly it's like weeding, like thinking about what I want to do in the garden later on at this stage. And I'm also doing the same with Sweet Peas for Summer, How to Create a Garden in a Year by the same author. So I had already owned this, I think, for a couple of years. Bought in Oxfam Bookshop for £2.99. And then I bought this for probably like another £2.99 in, I think, the same Oxfam Bookshop. Yeah, I think it's because basically I really enjoyed what I'd read of The 5-Minute Garden last year, because I did try to start it last year. And when I saw it was the same author, I decided to pick it up and read the blurb. And basically it's, I think, kind of a more detailed version of The 5-Minute Garden that goes beyond 5 minutes, and is also focused on creating a garden for the first time and aiming to have like a garden full of flowers by the summer. So it doesn't even take the whole year to see like beauty and nice things growing in your garden. The book actually doesn't start until March, but I have gone and read like the January and February bits from the back. So like it's January and February, like right at the back here, because it begins after sort of a bit of intro preamble about designing a garden in March. And honestly, it's actually been one of the more helpful books I've read, because it, you know, she has the same aim that I would have had. And I've enjoyed it so much that I have put another book of hers on hold at the library. Shh, don't tell my TBR. I think, as I say, they will become reference books in the long run. I wouldn't normally talk about those kind of books on here, but because I am working through them month by month, they are going to count kind of on my total books read, and so I am counting them against my TBR. So there we go. Then on to audiobooks. I don't actually have any ebooks on the go at the moment. I am due to start one as soon as I finish one of these print books. But I don't have one on the go at the moment. But I do have a few audiobooks. So the first one is A Wedding at the Comfort Food Cafe by Debbie Johnson. So if you've watched my videos before, the Comfort Food Cafe series is a series I absolutely love, and I've talked about several of the books from that series before. Now this one I actually had forgotten that I hadn't read. So I read books 2 to 5 of the series through the library on audiobook ages ago, and thought that was it. I knew I hadn't read book 1, but my library didn't have it. And then a new one came out, like book 7, and I read that. Then I thought, oh, I'm going to go back and finally listen to book 1. Did that. And then I was like, okay, great, I've read them all. And I looked at the list and I was like, wait, I didn't read book 6. And it's because my library didn't have it. I never had it at any point. And so I decided I was going to listen to it on Spotify. I really wanted to listen to the audiobook. By this point, the library had actually acquired it on ebook, but I wanted to listen to it on audiobooks because I'd listened to every other book in the series on audiobook. Unfortunately, I am struggling a bit with the audiobook narrator. Like, I think the audiobook narrator is sort of like putting on a sort of like, kind of like wispy, like airy kind of voice to like be in character. And it is really, really distracting. And I thought, okay, maybe I'll borrow it from the library, but I have so many ebooks waiting for me to read them that I think I'm just going to have to try and power through and get used to this narrator's voice. Otherwise, I'm never going to finish this book. And it would be really, really nice to finish it and slot in all the missing pieces into this series in my head. So that I can then anticipate future books in the series, which hopefully there will be. Basically, well, this series can go on forever and never end. I love it so much. And then I also started listening to When I Grow Up by Moya Sarner, Conversations with Adults in Search of Adulthood, which was a recommendation that I got from someone I know, which is basically a journalist and a trainee psychotherapist talking to a lot of people about what they think adulthood means, whether they would consider themselves an adult and all of that kind of thing. It sounded really, really interesting, so I thought I would start listening to that. And I am an hour and 1 minute and 12 seconds into this book, and I think there are 9 hours and 19 minutes left. So I've got a way to go, but I do have it out for 9 more days. And then I also have started reading, but it's gone back to the library and I don't know when I'll be able to get it because I can't put a hold on it. So I think I'm just going to have to stalk the page on Libby until I can get it back. And that is A Lady's Guide to Fortune Hunting by Sophie Irwin, which is a Regency romance that I started listening to, and I was really, really enjoying it. But yeah, did not finish it in time. If I finish A Wedding at the Comfort Food Cafe, I will maybe give that one a go on Spotify as well. But it depends how many hours I've got left on Spotify, because it might not be worth trying to listen to it on there if I haven't got very many left. So yeah, we'll see. So yeah, there we are. That is where I'm at. That is the scale of my smorgasbord at the moment. I am now going to pop my headphones on, clean my bedroom whilst listening to a wedding at the Comfort Food Cafe. See if I get on with that. If not, I'll switch and listen to some when I grow up. And then I'm going to clean the kitchen. It's all cleaning, and in between possibly hang out some laundry. It's just going to be chore central up in here, and hopefully I'm going to get some audiobook listening done. And then when I've done all of that, I'm hoping to reward myself with a nice hour spent on the sofa with the magic of Christmas. So yeah, fingers crossed I get to that stage. I will update you. Hello, it is now the 16th of February. It's actually a nice sunny day. Well, it's got a bit grey now, but still, great lighting for filming. I am here to update you on how things are going. So pretty much straight after my last update, I started finishing books, so really pleased with that. I did decide to sort of force myself through the rest of A Wedding at the Comfort Food Cafe on audio, because I thought I can't add another ebook to my pile. It's already too long, and I never get to them because I have so much other stuff to read. So yeah, it was fine. I did get used to it after a couple more hours of listening, and I finished the book. I have to say it's probably my least favourite of the Comfort Food Cafe series, because it involves a love triangle that at no point really reads as a love triangle. So the main character's kind of estranged husband from many years ago shows up and tries to rekindle their relationship. But you really know, like, from the start, it's pretty obvious that she's not going to get back together with him, and this is all just to give her like closure so that she can move on with the guy that she's been with since one of the previous books, where she was a background character. So yeah, I think because it wasn't like a real love triangle, and I'm not really a fan of love triangles anyway, it didn't do that much for me, but it was still great to be back in Budbury with the gang, you know. So yeah, I still love this series, and yeah, I'm very happy that it continued after this book. The second book I finished reading since my last update was My Mother's Wedding Dress by Justine Picardie. I had been meaning to finish this for absolutely ages, so I'm very glad that I have now. I think in my last update I mentioned that I started over reading it from the beginning, and yeah, once I got into it this time, I just sped through it really, and it was such a good one for like picking up and putting down, because the sort of sections are quite short, and even the longer ones are kind of, they have subdivisions within them, so it's really good for sort of dipping in and out of, and I think that's why I finished it so quickly. And because I finished this really quickly, I was kind of had fashion on the brain, I then decided to pick up and start reading Style and Substance, Why What We Wear Matters, edited by Garnett. So this is sort of an anthology of short pieces about clothes, basically, by a whole load of different people. Some of them are like excerpted from other books, some of them are like new pieces. It's all a big mixture of people who are alive, people who are dead. It's really, really good. I'm enjoying it a lot so far, and I'm already most of the way through. Another great one for picking up and putting down. And I'm thinking I've got a few more books like this on my shelves, so I might just have like a whole like fashion books moment, because they are good to get off my TBR. The only thing is, of course, that these two books are books I'm going to keep, because I like to keep books like this. I collect them, so they are not really helping with the whole clearing up my shelf situation. But I tell myself that a TBR book read is a TBR book read. It doesn't matter whether I'm keeping it or not, because it means one off the pile of books that I have to read, and that means I'm one closer to another book which I might read and not keep. It makes sense. It makes sense. Just trust me. So yeah, that's the newest addition to my currently reading. But there are some more books I have actually finished. So after that, I finished The Magic of Christmas. I did not enjoy this as much as A Christmas Invitation, which is the first Trisha Ashley book that I read, but I did enjoy it a lot nonetheless. Trisha Ashley actually started out writing like domestic satires, according to her Wikipedia page, before she turned her talents to romance. And this was one of these books that was originally published as a domestic satire, and then kind of rewritten later on and published under a new title, to kind of play up the romance. And you know what? It shows. The blurbs on Trisha Ashley books, and you have to take this with a pinch of salt because I've only read 2 so far, but I feel like she doesn't care about as much about the romance as like the publishing apparatus around her wants the reader to care about the romance, because the blurb is very heavy on the romantic elements of the books, but actually they are probably like the tiniest bit of the book. They're probably like 10% of the book. The rest is like her like life and all of like the weird things her weird family members do around her, her son. There's this whole murder plot going on. Like gardening and like her self-sufficiency projects just take up most of the book. And I want to be clear, this is not a complaint, because I love her. Like, I love that there's just so much stuff pushed into a book. I love the weird and wonderful characters that she creates. I enjoy it so much. But is it a romance? But is it that romantic? Not really. I mean, I was rooting for her to get with the guy that she goes with in the end, you know, throughout the whole book. I was like, well, obviously you two are meant to be together, like, duh, which is how all the other side characters around them felt, by the way. But yeah, it wasn't like what I'd think of as a romance book, where the romance like fully is the centre of the story and the characters spend like a lot of time together. Like, they don't even spend that much time together in this book. But hey, I love it. I'm still going to try and read every other Trisha Ashley out there, because I just enjoy the worlds that she creates so much. So yeah, there we go. Then I read my actual probable last Christmas book until October, and that is Sleigh Ride, 3 Sexy Stories to Warm Your Christmas Nights by Olivia Harvey, Kate Kingsley and Harriet Reuter Hapgood. So this was a kind of mini collection of novellas / short stories, depending on how you define those terms, by 3 authors. When I started reading this, everyone was like, I recognise the first one, and I realised it's Kerris Fox / Stainton publishing an old novella under a new pen name. I was like, I've read this before when it was published as a Kerris Stainton book. But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that this adoption of the Olivia Harvey pen name means that she will write more romantic fiction, because that would be good. But there we go. I got this from NetGalley, and I did not know that this whole pen name thing was the case when I read it. So I was like, wait, what's going on here? And it took me a moment to get like why I recognise the story, because I do really like that novella. So yeah, this was just a fun little collection of some Christmas romance stories, and very heavy on the romance, unlike the Trisha Ashley, but good too. Then I read Juliette by Camille Jourdy. So this is translated from French, and it's a very, very beautiful graphic novel. I absolutely loved the art, especially the very watercolour heavy style pages. I can't wave it to you because I borrowed it from the library as an ebook, so there's nothing to wave at you. But yeah, if you want to have a look, Google it, and you can see how really, really lovely the art is in this book. It's about a young woman who goes back to the countryside from Paris to stay with her family, and she learns a lot about them and the history and all of the stuff that they kind of leave her out of while she's there. It's quite hard to explain, because it's very character driven. It's very much about the lives of her family members and a couple of other people she meets while she's there, and not really about like a fast moving plot or anything like that. But I enjoyed it a lot, and I would recommend. Then I was kind of on a roll, and I decided to read Alison by Lizzy Stewart. I was not feeling very well that day, and I decided to pick this up. I bought this from the library on accident. Basically, I went to the library to pick up a book and saw this on a shelf and was like, oh, I've wanted to read that for ages, and I would love to read that in hard copy rather than borrow the ebook from the library. So I did. I got it on hard copy, and I've read it now. And this is this really, really lovely graphic novel told through a mixture of these pages where there's a lot of text and sort of pictures sort of in a scrapbook style, and then more sort of like comic-y pages where it's sort of like a series of panels, and you can, here we are, there's a good example of it, and you can kind of follow the story sequentially. So it's sort of a mix of like of scrapbook style bits of art on a page and actually kind of sequential art storytelling. I really, really love this. It's a life story of a woman artist who starts out living by the sea. She marries young because she doesn't really know what else to do with her life. But while she is kind of struggling with the reality of being married and not having a job and adjusting to her new life, she starts having this sort of emotional affair at first that then becomes physical after she leaves her husband, with this artist who's staying there for a little while to look after his friend's house. And he encourages her to come to London. So 3 months later, she moves to London, and he sort of sees her as his like pet project and tries to train her up as an artist. But she has issues with that because he wants her to be one thing and she can feel that her heart is leading her towards something else. And it kind of goes from there. And it was just a really, really lovely, nuanced, emotional, compelling story. I enjoyed it so, so much. I basically finished it and then was immediately thrusting it towards Nick, being like, I loved this, you should read it. So if that's not a great recommendation, I don't know what is. Now by this time you can see that I have I finished a couple of non-TBR books without reading another TBR book, and I made it worse because then on Thursday, the day before Valentine's Day, my hold came in at the library for Dogman Big Jim Begins, and me and my partner Nick have this tradition when a new Dogman comes in at the library that we read it whilst eating a chocolate orange, a dark chocolate orange, specifically. And because it was the day before Valentine's Day, I was like, I'm not going to put this off, I'm just going to borrow it and we're going to do it because it's, you know, it's our thing. So we did. I did really enjoy Big Jim Begins. I don't enjoy it as much as like the earlier Dogman ones. I think up until like the point where all of the like little PT plot gets resolved, like that is my favourite in Dogman. And then after that, when PT and little PT aren't so much of a thing anymore and it moves on to sort of side characters, that's when I started to get more excited about Cat Kid Comic Club. Love Cat Kid Comic Club, which is sort of like the spin-off series from Dogman, which is kind of both a story of its own, but also like encouraging kids to make comics, which I just love and think is adorable. But yeah, I did enjoy Big Jim Begins. Big Jim is a great character. I have enjoyed Big Jim in his appearances in Dogman, so it is quite cool that he's now sort of getting his own little series within the series, so that's good. This is obviously the first one. There is a sequel lined up, and probably many more after that. Gotta keep the Dogman empire running. Gotta give those kids more books to read, and me as well. So now I am only 4 TBR books away from finishing the current 50 books. If you haven't watched my rules video, then you might not know this, but every 50 books read for my TBR, I get to have a rule change. I can change any of the rules of how this whole thing works. So for the first 50 books, I didn't really have any rules. Not really very strict ones. I think it was basically just like, I read 50 books, I get a reward. And that still stands. At the end of these 50 books, I do get to have a reward. But I am probably gonna like get a takeaway or something because I don't want to accumulate any more stuff. So yeah, it's probably gonna be a takeaway or some chocolate or something edible, basically. The current other rule that I have is that for every book I read for my TBR, then I can read a non-TBR book. And I'm not allowed to read like other non-TBR books beyond that. There was an exception for Audible when I was trying to read all of the books that I wanted to read from the Audible Plus catalogue that I couldn't get anywhere else for free. During that period, Audible books didn't count against either number. But now I'm free from Audible, that's no longer the case. So everything I read which isn't a physical book counts as a non-TBR book for this whole challenge process thing. I have considered 2 things. One, giving myself more slack, and one, giving myself less slack. So the thing giving myself more slack is to give myself a cheat week every month where I can listen to as many audiobooks as I want. To basically use up my audiobook hours on Spotify and get through some of these audiobooks that I have on my list. And also mean that I can do like as many chores as I want, with entertainment provided, and do things like crafts and getting through my mending pile whilst listening to audiobooks and things like that. And the thing that I have considered that makes it more strict is doubling the number of TBR books that I have to read in order to earn a non-TBR one. And I have to be honest with you, I'm leaning towards doing the latter and not the former. So I thought about the cheat week. And at first it seemed like a really good idea, so that I would get through some of the audiobooks I have requested from the library, and have that time for chores and things like that. But I thought what I could do instead is just say no more NetGalley books. And if I say no more NetGalley books, then primarily I'm going to be listening to audiobooks. I don't borrow that many ebooks from the library or print books from the library. So I probably still end up listening to a lot of audiobooks. And NetGalley have actually made this easier for me by changing the file format that they give you proofs in, so that you have to have like their specific app downloaded on a device, which means it does not work for my very old e-ink e-reader, the Nook Simple Touch, or any of the options I might choose to buy when my Nook stops working. You know, like I will probably be getting a Kobo so that I can borrow ebooks from the library on it, and yeah, that is that is also not compatible. I'm sure NetGalley will sort themselves out at some point and come up with a way to have a compatible file format again, or Kobo will sort it out or something. But in the meantime, I can't read ebooks from NetGalley that I haven't already downloaded and put on my Nook. You know, I have like 3 or 4 on there, but that's it. You know, I can't read any of the others. So I am going to basically be restricted to only listening to audiobooks on NetGalley from now on until this whole mess is sorted out. So that is actually a good time to have this you know, to have the rules kind of as they are with that. And in terms of doubling the amount of non-TBR books I have to read to earn one, I just really want to speed up the rate at which I'm getting through my TBR. Because we're coming up for 2 years now of me doing TBR Zero, and I feel like I have not made substantial headway. I have made a decent amount of headway, but I have not made the kind of substantial headway that I was really looking to have. And I'm thinking, like, if it's 2 TBR books to every non-TBR book, then I'm going to get through the next 50 books much faster, because that's only 75 books. That I have to read rather than 100. You know, like when I've read my 50 books, that will actually be 100 books because of the non-TBR ones. Whereas if it is 2 TBR books for every non-TBR one, then that's only 75. So I will get to the end of it a lot faster. So I think it will be like a case of like short-term pain for long-term gain. It probably will require me planning a lot, or at times getting quite behind because of, you know, things like book clubs and things like that which happen. But you know what? I may change my mind in a couple of weeks when I actually have hit this, but I feel like I probably should do that. So yeah, stay tuned for updates. I don't know if it'll be in this vlog or in the next one when I've read those books, but we'll see. At the moment, I am in a TBR deficit. So I only have those 4 TBR books to read before I finish the current like 50 books. But I have even less non-TBR. I only have 1 non-TBR slot, as it were, because of having read like 2 graphic novels and 3 graphic novels. Yeah, Juliette, Alison, and Dogman Big Jim Begins. Yeah, I have 1 slot left, and that actually already has a book set aside for it. I'm going to finish that today, hopefully. That is When I Grow Up by Moya Sarner, because it is due in 1 day, and I have, let's see, 5 hours and 41 minutes left. I'm going to go to the gym after I finish filming this video, so I will be listening to that on the way there, while I'm at the gym, on the way back, and then while I make myself some dinner and get ready for bed, I put some laundry on and things like that. So I'm thinking that I will get it done, and then I will have no books out of the library except for 1 print book, which I now won't be able to finish until I've read, rather, until I've read those other books. Those other 4 TBR books. But yeah, I will have nothing out on Libby. Absolutely nothing. Which I think is a really good place to be in as I start the next 50 books. So I think I will then just have to crack on, finish Style and Substance, and then 3 other books. And then I'll be done with this current phase of the TBR project, and can start the next 50 books. And hopefully see some faster headway. I think it will be a case of just planning my time, and making sure that I'm embracing the book smorgasbord, because so far it's worked out quite well since I started doing it. It's worked out quite well. I'm just going to embrace the book smorgasbord, resist the siren call of graphic novels, because, yeah, they're just so quick to read. But I don't have any more out from the library at the moment, so yeah. Although I keep getting Witch Atelier, the latest volume come up. I keep having to hit deliver later because I haven't earned it yet, but I will earn it. I will earn it. Anyway, right, it's time to go to the gym. I will hopefully update you in another couple of days when I finish my next book, or 3 or 4. Hello, it is now the 26th of February. Yesterday was in fact my birthday, and once again a occasion on which I, in an ideal world, would get books, but I asked for no books. Oh, the torture, the torture. But it has to be done. No books as gifts until the TBR is at a manageable level. And I have been trying. I have been working in my small way that I do on a monthly basis to get that TBR down. So, update. Since the last time I filmed for this vlog, I finished Style and Substance, which I really enjoyed. It was a lovely little anthology full of pieces of all different lengths, some new, some taken from other publications. Just people reflecting on clothes and their relationship with them, which I am here for whenever it occurs in book form. Love it. I'm also here for it in podcast form, YouTube video form. It's just one of my favourite subjects. I have endless fascination for people and their clothes and the decisions they make around them and the thoughts around it. So yeah, really, really enjoyed that. Then, because I was totally on a fashion kick, and I've continued this fashion kick, and I think I might be on a fashion kick for a while, I read Love X Style X Life by Garance Doré. I obviously knew who Garance Doré was before picking up this book, which I think I did in a free bookshelf somewhere. But I had not been a huge fan. Like, I think I followed her blog kind of very casually back when I was an aspiring fashion blogger in the heyday of fashion blogs. If my life had been different, I could have been very successful, I feel. Because I had the passion and I had the people coming to my blog. I got linked by Susie Bubble on her blog. But I did not have a home with enough space for me to take outfit photos in, or a photographer boyfriend. Yeah, I lived with my parents at the time in a room which was quite small, not the best lit, and just the house was just generally too small for there to be a good space with lots of room for taking photos at the appropriate distance, and also didn't have a photographer boyfriend, so it just wasn't gonna happen. But I tried with my mirror selfies and all of that, and there was a time where you could get away with a mirror selfie, but that time passed and I didn't have the space and I didn't have the photographer boyfriend. So yeah, my life as a fashion blogger did not become extremely glamorous and successful, but hey, moving on. So yeah, when I looked at her blog, it was kind of more in the early phase of illustrations, then turning into photographs, and I didn't keep up with what she did next, basically. So it was kind of fun to see this and learn all this stuff that I'm sure most people who read this book would know, because it's very much one of those kind of books written for fans of the person. It goes into kind of some details about her personal life and stuff. I'm sure fans found really interesting. So I did enjoy this, but I won't be keeping it for the simple reason that the reflections on clothes weren't to the depth that I kind of look for in this type of book, you know. This is very much sort of like her story becoming an influencer, and then a big deal in the fashion industry, and not so much about the actual clothes. So there are clothes recommended in this book. They're sort of like, she recommends her staple choices, you know, types of items that she particularly likes to wear. But in general, very general terms, there isn't really any kind of key pieces that she's built a long relationship with, or a particular like kind of style that she's very passionate about. You know, that kind of thing is what I'm really looking for in a like good like clothes memoir book. So yeah, due to the lack of depth, I think, not to say that it's a shallow book. In some ways it touches on some like really meaningful themes, but just like the clothes content is not to the depth that I'm looking for in a book that I will keep and treasure forever that's about clothes. You know, I'm looking for like really personal reflections on particular items of clothing, stories about particular items of clothing, musings on why someone chooses to dress the way they do, where that all comes from. There's a little bit of that in here, especially right at the start when she talks about how her family members dressed, how her grandmother dressed, how her mother dressed, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's just not to the depth that I am looking for in a book that I treasure forever, which is great news because it means I can get it out of the house. That's number one gone. And then continuing the fashion kick, I picked up Style Forever, which I've had on my shelf for a while. I think not that long. I suspect that I picked it up last year because it's on a section of my shelf that I often have to move. Well, it was on a section of my shelf that I often have to move to get to books that are behind that, for instance. And so I am aware of its presence, you know, and I feel like I only picked it up last year. This is a book that's aimed at an older demographic, women over 50. It's about style as you age, which on the one hand I think is interesting, but on the other hand I am already feeling like I'm not going to keep this book as well. I'm finding it a bit on the prescriptive side with the advice that it gives. And also, it does have interviews with a lot of different women in it, but they're very, very brief. So again, I am getting the inkling that it's not really going to fit into that category of fashion, style, clothes related books that I will keep on my shelf and treasure forever and recommend to people and over. You know, not to say that it's bad, but it just doesn't seem to be my taste so far. But we'll see. Because I am only on page 42. I'm in the middle of a section where it's sort of like telling you about style tribes for older women. And yeah, I'm looking forward to some of the other bits. I know it kind of goes into depth about different styles of shoes and other items of clothing, and makes some like makeup recommendations towards the end. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading the rest, but I'm already suspecting this won't be one I'm holding on to forever. So more good news. Right, now, I can't believe it. I have been recording for 15 minutes now. I'm sure it won't be that long when I cut down the footage. But it is time for me to go and get ready for bed. And then maybe I'll do a little bit of reading in bed before I fall asleep. Hopefully, my next update, I will be telling you that I read the last 2 books. Because I'm now down to only having 2 books outstanding. One of them will almost certainly be this one. And the last 2 books in this current 50 books for TBR Zero project, and then yeah, it will be away into the next 50 books, probably at the beginning with the next month's video. Yeah, if I can get those 2 books read before the end of this vlog this month, that would be fantastic. A lovely yeah, a lovely note to begin the next month on. However, if I then get one of those new 50 books read this month, I'm not going to hold that against myself. I'm not going to not read it just so that I can start the next month off with beginning of the next 50 books, you know. That wouldn't make any sense. That would just be silly. But yeah, we'll see how we go. Hello, it is my final update for this month, month 20, and I am pleased to tell you that I did it! Woo! I finished what was the current 50 books that I was reading on the current rule regime. Here it is, my list. Finished, donezo. I can shred that now, except I won't. I will keep it till the end of the project and then put it in the recycling. But there we go, that's it. That is the second 50 books done. And the last 2 books that I finished were indeed Style Forever, which I have to admit grew on me because I really like the illustration style. With one caveat, basically all of the illustrations have the same body shape. There's no variation. They're all tall and long. There are no shorter, rounder, curvier women really in these illustrations, which I think is a shame because there's so many like beautiful different outfits in these illustrations. I think seeing them on a variety of body shapes would have just added to it. But there we go. There we go. It is a book which is not, I feel, particularly recent. I think I remember the copyright details being at the back of the book instead of the front for some reason on this one, maybe. Yeah. Yeah, here we are. It was published in 2015. So, yeah. A good 10 years old at this point. I feel like nowadays they would be a bit stricter on having that diversity in body shapes represented there. But anyway, I digress. Yeah. I did enjoy it more than I thought in the end. I think once it started getting into women's personal reflections on their style, I enjoyed it more. Some of the more kind of prescriptive stuff at the beginning was sort of contradicted, which was nice. So there we go. I think I will be donating this back into the world for another person to read. But I did get some enjoyment from it, so there we go. And the final book I read was another fashion-y book, and this was On Brogue, which I believe is a book to tie into a blog, what was a blog, by the author. I enjoyed this much more than I thought I would, because it's all about flat shoes, and I love wearing flat shoes. However, I have big feet, so shoe shopping has always been difficult for me, shall we say, but I enjoyed this nonetheless. It was a lot of fun, and it actually got me into discovering some new, let's say more expensive, more niche footwear manufacturers, but that do go up to my size. And I have long since resigned myself to the fact that I can't buy cheap shoes because they just are not made in my size. So I'm cool with that, having discovered some new places to put on my list for when I need new shoes, which won't be for a while, but they're there all the same. So there we go. Now we're moving on to the tally. I read 1 audiobook from Spotify, 1 ebook from NetGalley, 2 library ebooks, 1 library print book, 1 library audiobook, and 6 TBR books. So there we go. I will not talk any more about ending the current 50 books here because that is for another video, my rule change video. So please keep an eye out for that. It should be up in the next couple of weeks, and you will after that see me in the next month. Month 21. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you'd like to see more from me, and let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books, what you thought of them, how your own TBR Zero or similar projects are going. You'll see me again soon. Bye!